Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Welcome to the podcast. And now,
you're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
One day I was talking to Lipa and he says, Shlomi, can you take me to Baghdad? I wasn't sure what's Kurdistan, what's Iraq, what's Baghdad. I didn't know the differences. But I wanted to go to see the essence of Talmud Bavli, where it all started. Obviously I said, of course, it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And eventually the right time came and we went. In the midst of all this exciting, dangerous trip, we get this idea of, we decided to go through the entire Shas. Obviously we couldn't go through the entire Shas because it would take years, but Rav Mata Frank gave us this idea that we can go through every Masechta, a little bit of every Masechta, sort of like a Tikkun Shavuos, and that way we can go through the entire Shas. And then Shlomi shows me in Masechtas Megillah his beautiful words, how beautiful it is to learn with the song and to learn with the nigga. And he took one look at it and he was like, this has to be a song. Reb Yochanan teaches us in the Gemara, Hakoire Beloi ne'ima Vishoyne beloi zimero Ulav akusi voimei Zigam ani nusati luhem Chikim loi toivim.
And that's Lipa Schmeltzer, you heard it singing in the background. He is a Hasidic superstar. He went to Iraq together with Shlomi Zantz, a 27-year-old Hasidic Jewish writer, podcaster, and YouTuber. He's been over 40 countries, including Saudi Arabia. Lipa, Shlomi, thank you for joining us. Good vach. How are you, Lipa?
Baruch Hashem, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Long time we haven't spoken, but I see you become a world traveler.
First of all, yes, we didn't speak in a long time, and I don't know if about a world traveler. The truth is, in my singing career, I was a world traveler. I have been a world traveler for many years, but this is a new type of trip. It's a whole new level. It's a whole new idea, and it's even scary and dangerous and exciting at the same time. But it's something else under my belt, accomplished. I think it's an accomplishment. And I think after the fact, I don't regret that I did it. But I don't know if I would do it again.
Well, how did you end up in Iraq? Tell us about it. What's the procedure? It's not your typical, you said you've been over the world. I know you have, but typically you haven't been to Iraq. You haven't been to Iran, to some of these countries. So how did you end up there? So
one day I get a WhatsApp from Shlomi Zantz, who is, I think Shlomi is making a big Kiddush Hashem by being involved in all types of interviews and taking risks to show that the world has more positivity than people initially think. For example, Middle East countries. And I'm working on an album called Bav Lipa, which is taking Gemara stories and turning into songs. And it's fascinating for me that the Gemara as we see it, and people learn it in Israel, we think like some people draw in the Chaydes today, Moshe Rabbeinu would draw Moshe Rabbeinu with the Shtreimel. But there's a long history until we got to the Shtreimel or the black hat. And a huge part of our Jewish identity comes from Iraq, from Buvel. That's hence Golas Buvel, Al-Naharas Buvel. And the Yiddishkeit as we know it, I can say that most of it, or if not, more than half, stems from, I didn't measure it exactly, but stems from Buvel, from Iraq. So one day Shlomi sends me a WhatsApp that he's in Kurdistan, which is the more safe part of Iraq, and he is by a caver, and they're playing a song that I have in my album, Uvini Malkaini, Uvini Malkaini. So I told him, wow, where's Kurdistan? He says, Iraq. I said, I one day maybe want to go there. He said, why? I said, I'm working on a new project. I'll explain it to you. And then when he came back, I met him by Elish Timetz, my friend Mechel Sevetoire, and I told him that we should try to go. But I have a very busy schedule, so he came up with the idea, maybe in the 3 weeks when there's no weddings, I can go then. And the rest is almost history. We went back and forth.
How did you get in there? It's a dangerous place. How did you have to apply for a visa? What was the procedure?
I'll let me explain also a little bit. But basically, I had to apply for another passport because my passport couldn't be stamped from Israel with an Israeli stamp, and plus my payas would give away that I'm Jewish, and even some of the listeners may think that even if I put my payas behind my ears and I put on a hat, that everybody would recognize me as a Jew. It's not so true, because if you go to the Middle East country like Iraq, where many people don't even have internet and they don't know how a Hasidic Jew is supposed to look like. So if you do it a little bit right, then you dress up enough, then it's good enough. But yeah, I had to make a passport, and Shlomi was busy arranging all these things. He's very good at that. He does trips for people personally who hire him. And that all was taken care of, and he hired security.
So you had to get a regular passport? Was it a fake passport? What kind of passport?
No, I had to get a regular passport, but I had to sign an agreement with the government of why I want to have two passports with the same name, and what my business is, and why I'm doing it. And I had to fill out the whole form. And close to the end, it was almost the whole trip went off because I had to make the passport by a certain date. And when I went for this the interview, they wanted me to bring certain papers from my company to prove everything. But I showed them on the internet, I showed them what I do, my entertainment. I said it's not like a company that I'm working for a bank. I'm singing. It's a very unique situation. I'm making an album and I'm going with the news reporter. It's a project. So they called the supervisor and they let me have the passport for 2 years, which is shorter than a regular passport, in order not to void my old passport. So I had to go, I had to make sure they don't void my old passport, because 2 days later, I went for a show to Israel for Belev Echad, and I couldn't go to Europe because of all the COVID things. I came back to New York for 8 hours and went to Israel from scratch. Left the new passport home and dressed up regular like Lipa and the Hasidic, and then I went to Israel. But that's the short version. I'll let Shlomi hop in a little bit also.
Yeah, Shlomi, tell me logistically how it all went.
So, thank you so much for having me. Lipa, it's good to see you. Basically, Lipa needed a new passport. The U.S. State Department allows people to have two passports at the same time for special reasons. Either if you have stamps of Israel on your passport, that could be problematic if you're traveling to Middle Eastern countries. So they'll grant you a second passport. Or, for example, let's say you need to go to Russia, and you need to get a visa to go to Russia, so your passport ends up in the Russian embassy for 3 weeks. In the meantime, you have to travel somewhere else, so they'll give you a second passport. So that's what we arranged for Lipa, to get a second passport. We did not need to get visas to Iraq. There was a visa upon arrival, which we were a little bit skeptical about if they were going to issue it to us or not. But
towards the second flight, they almost stopped us because they said there's no such a thing. We do need to have a visa beforehand, but anyway, go on.
That's right, yeah. When we're in Turkey on our stopover on the way to Baghdad, they told us there's no such thing as a visa upon arrival. They didn't want to let us board the flight, and then they let us board, and when we got there, we did get visas, so it was relatively simple once we were there.
Did you get kosher food on the flight to Baghdad?
We did.
You did, okay. Well, what airline did you fly on?
Turkish Airlines.
Turkish Airlines, okay. So when you got there,
funny because I went home from, it's an interesting question, because I went home now from Mexico, from a PACER program, from Mexico with United, and the whole flight was Jewish. Maybe they had 1 million of non-Jews, because we all came home from PACER programs, and we didn't get kosher food. They gave everybody food. The 10 people, they gave the non-kosher food, but we didn't get kosher food because for some reason now with COVID we don't get the kosher food. But Turkish Airlines did give us, on the way to Baghdad, kosher food.
And that's very, very interesting. Now, when you got to Baghdad, were you wearing a Hasidic outfit to the pay?
No.
So you ready to change in the plane?
In Turkey.
Are you changed in Turkey? So so the flight from Turkey to Baghdad, you're ready, were in non-Hasidic garb?
Non-Hasidic, like the regular American news reporters.
So is that what you travel on as American news reporters in Baghdad? Is that your official title that you were there?
I don't know if I had a title. I mean, a title for whom? We came as tourists.
So when you got there, what was it like? I assume you couldn't find any kosher restaurants in Baghdad.
No, don't. I made a whole article in the Army. I spoke about the one thing I ate, I ate a codfish, which is only I had to throw in my. There was a whole thing if you could eat it or not, because the fire is made by non-Jews. Shlomi didn't want to eat it, but then I remembered that that if it's a big fire that keeps on burning, like an old-fashioned oven with wood, if you throw in a little wood or something, then you consider it also like you enhance the fire. So I was matter myself to eat it. And Shlomo wanted to hear from a Rav, and until the Rav called him back, it was 2 hours later. So he gave up on the fish. I ate the fish and I had a crazy stomach ache for like 2 weeks. I called Shlomi 10 days later. I said, Shlomi, I've already been to Israel and back. I'm back in New York. I'm still carrying this fish. So it's lucky. So no, there was no kosher food.
Now, how many times did you end up going to Baghdad, Lipa?
I went only one time.
Only one time. But Shlomo, you've been there more than once, right? Or
Not
just
in
once?
Baghdad.
I was in Iraq earlier. I was never in Baghdad before.
Never Baghdad. So when you went there, did you feel self-conscious about being Jewish? Were you afraid that people were going to find out who you were?
I think we both had different reasons to be worried. Obviously, Lipa's a very, very famous person, and you have millions of people watching his music videos, so there could be a chance that someone would recognize him. I have quite a popular YouTube channel, and a large part of my audience is in the Middle East, so I was also worried that I might get recognized. I was actually on a flight to Afghanistan a couple of weeks before that, and I was trying very hard to stay low-key, and somebody came up to me on the flight and said, "Aren't you that Jewish guy from YouTube?" And it really freaked me out. So we were both worried about this, yeah. But thank God no one recognized us.
And just to make a point, because it could be so hard to believe that someone in the Middle East should ask Shlomi if he's the guy from YouTube. You have to understand that a lot of his clips have Middle Eastern content. So in Iraq, this didn't happen, but before, like he said in his previous tip, someone confronted him and asked him if he's the guy from YouTube. That guy meant a compliment, but it's still frightening. Now, I was very frightened. Now, I backed out of the whole trip 15 hours before the trip. I really backed out, not just to make. I called Shlomi. I told my kids I was going to go to this crazy trip, and it's impossible. I'm going to go. First of all, I went to the government's website. You can all go now. If you go now on the website from the government of the United States, every listener, you go in and you Google, I want to go to Iraq from America. Google, can an American citizen travel to Iraq? And you'll see that the government's website says, do not travel to Baghdad, and you can be kidnapped, and every American is a target of being kidnapped, and it will tell you that the government office in Baghdad is closed. So I saw that, and I'm thinking to myself, God forbid if something happens to me, what will people think of me? I have 0 achrayas, I have 4 kids, and just went to Baghdad. On the other hand, I had spent 10 grand already invested in this trip, and from security, travel, and stuff. First of all, Shlomi was saying don't take any security, because he said that if you take a security guard, it can make a red flag. Just be like a regular citizen almost. It's easier sometimes. And although he has a point, I was still afraid not to have a...
Well, aren't there many American tourists going to Iraq these days?
Exactly. And we look different. It's a different skin tone even, And I was afraid, but the security we got was more like a taxi driver security, and then I find out that he has a malicious family. That's like saying that you go to Israel, lahavdil, to separate. Yeah, you go to Israel, and you tell someone, when I go to Meisha because I'm a big Zionist, Zev Brenner, I need security, and then you have a driver who tells you that his brother-in-law is someone Blau from Schmeltzer. Like, I'm getting this driver who tells me that his family is from militia. Militia are the people that if they find out I'm Jewish or an American, there's no chance I make it out of Iraq.
Well, did they ask you if you were American or when you were there?
Oh, so when I came over the flight, the first thing, so Shlomi was taking care of the tour guide and this supposedly security. Just to make it clear, the security, what we're talking about, I made fun of it. But this guy is driving around people of the New York Times and international newspapers. So that's his job. So he knows how to smell. Security doesn't have to mean he has a gun. He knows how to where to go, where not to go, what to say, what not to say. And point being, I said something for I can't say the real name because they can really be in danger. But I said to the tour guide something along the lines. I think that's what I said. I want to be very careful. I think so. Something about Israel, maybe I asked if I look enough Arabic or if I look enough like not from Israel. So this other guy, the driver that takes around the New York Times, the supposedly security guy, is asking me, are you very quiet, like almost like, are you from the tribe? I said, yes. He said, he goes closer to my ears, he said, never ever mention this name again, not of the tribe and not of the country, until you're on the airplane on your way back, for my safety and your safety. And that frightened me very much. And then we go to the car, we start driving, and I'll let Shlomi tell you what happened when we drove away from the airport.
So just before, I don't even know if Lipa knows this, but my original tour guide who we hired said that he has this friend who drives around reporters to the New York Times, and he's armed and he has a gun, don't worry. At the end of the trip, I said to the guy, can I see your gun? He says, what gun? What are you talking about? So I think we got taken for a little bit of a ride with, literally.
Because we paid a few $100s a day, and then he was a driver. But he was like, no gun, he knows what to do, what not to do, whatever. It was kind of,
But anyway, we were leaving the airport. First, as soon as you leave the airport, there's the spot where Qasem Soleimani, who was the Iranian general that got assassinated in the United States in Baghdad. So literally on the highway, there's this spot there's like a concrete wall on the side of the highway, and there's holes in it from shrapnel. There's a gigantic sign with pictures of Soleimani and other martyrs, and says, "We will never forgive the blood of our martyrs." And then on the left side of the highway, his car is still there on display. It looks like a dish of spaghetti, completely mangled and tangled, but it's there. Then a couple miles further down the road, all of a sudden we saw missiles flying in the sky, and basically you had a armed drone from the Iranian militias trying to attack the U.S. Embassy, and these missiles are literally coming down in front of us. And I tried to apologize to Lipa immediately, because I told him, these things never happen to me. I don't know why this trip is different.
But It's funny, I have this tendency, I always tell people that everything I do in my life, these people you have, I'm sure we all have these type of friends that they say, I don't care, I'm not afraid, say whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. But then when show comes, it comes to show, then they get so frightened. I think I'm a little bit the opposite. I take very precautions and everything, rethinking what I said, what I did, to the extent that it's above normal, and I'm afraid very much before, but when I undertake something, like this bomb was flying above my head, in front actually, like front of the windshield, and Shlomi was asking me, how do you feel? I didn't answer him because there was no right answer to respond, but I was kind of, whatever happens, I made all this calculation beforehand, and there was a point I was thinking I'm not coming back to the US. And the thing is that it was a big risk. When I called Shlomi, this is almost comedy, and I told him that I'm not going. So first he was like a politician. He said, okay, whatever, Lipa, don't worry. But then he told his wife already that he's going for a trip, and he probably had his suitcase packed, and he bought some mealmarks, salamis and stuff. By the way, I have a friend, Heshi Weiss, who helped me a great deal many times, and he worked for Mealmart, and I could have...
But you couldn't bring any Mealmart salami in, right?
No, but I could have asked him for free, but I couldn't tell him about the trip, so I couldn't say anything. So
why couldn't you tell people about the trip beforehand? If you told your Hasidic your friends, they weren't going to tell the Iraqi government you were coming.
I know, but first of all, we were going to give out this interview in the army to be open. That's also from a business perspective. We wouldn't get to blow the whole story before circus. And also, if something goes wrong, if something doesn't work out, even for safety, I don't know, somebody tweets out something, Lipa's in Iraq, I don't know. That even now on my YouTube, I have comments, you can go, there's some Arabic language comments. The world is a very small world today. And if somebody tweets, 2 Jewish people went to Iraq, the tour guy told me he saw my YouTube clips. Of course, he only saw it after the fact when he knew that I'm coming, and he went to look for it. But he told me, don't say your Lipa. He says, this is the open conversation we had openly. He said, if you're being detained by any anything that happens, don't say your name, so they can't Google to see.
Can they see your passport?
So the passport I only showed in when I came.
No, but you carry your passport on you. Had you gone through the...
It says laser.
Oh, that's laser. Okay.
So they said I should say I'm laser. So they said, are you having any other passport? I said, I don't have a passport, but my father comes from Budapest, and my mother. So they called me Laser the Sheikh from Budapest. And they said, in case somebody sees my passport, I could say that I also have an American passport, but I haven't. I'll tell I have my Hungarian, identity. So I told Shlomi I'm not going, Then he calls me back. He leaves me a WhatsApp, actually. I still have it. I should look for it up and play it now. He says to me that if Nachman says the whole thing, that if you're meant to go to some place and you're not going, God may bring you there in chains. So I told him that Nachman is like a Gemara. I can find you 10 of Nachmans that's going to tell me not to go.
But you can end up in chains by going there too.
Yeah.
Before we break, did you actually film the music video in Iraq?
So the singing part of making the song, where I have the hat, is in Kurdistan, Iraq, because obviously if I tell you I was so afraid, and then you see me in a music studio in Iraq, so it's a hocus pocus. No, Kurdistan is like the Tel Aviv of Israel. Kurdistan, you know probably the politics that the UN doesn't recognize as a separate country, but it's really a separate identity. And over there they love Jews. So over there you can go. I mean, there's still an Arabic country, it's up to you, but I'm saying it's more safe. And over there I went with my payers down, and I sang, and this is filmed in Iraq, but it's a different part of Iraq. It's like a different land, different president, different everything. In Iraq, I was just doing from the car to the hotel. The car went to the hotel with security, like where politicians stay, with my tour guide and the so-called security to the places where we needed to visit. Back to the hotel, nothing by myself, even not for one breath.
We're speaking with superstar, Hasidic superstar Lipa Schmeltzer. He was in Iraq filming a music video about the Talmud Bavli. Shlomo Zions was with him, a 27-year-old Hasidic Jewish writer, podcaster.
That I went to Iraq not for the music video. That idea came to me over there. I went to Iraq to connect to Bavli, so I can now work on music that's going to be based on stories from Bavli.
But you didn't go with the idea to make a music video?
No. I went to connect with Amaruam and Tanuam, and then there, the last day, I asked the tour guide if he knows the studio in Kurdistan. So I composed the song. They bought 3 players, and it was a whole mishmash. When I got the files, I saw it's like a whole mishmash. I reproduced it here with Gershi Schwartz and sent it to Israel to make music with David Taub. So it has now Israel, Iraq, and America and all in one song. But then I also composed about 10 songs over there. That's all going to keep on coming out, yeah.
We're speaking with Lipa Schmeltzer, superstar. He was in Iraq, and you heard about his experience. Shlomo Zions accompanied him, a Hasidic Jewish writer, podcaster, and YouTuber. We welcome we have listeners this morning in Germany, Australia, England, and Russia. We welcome all of you. You can call us.
I hope you have some from America, too.
It goes without saying. I don't have any from Hungary, though, and none from Iraq yet, but I'm expecting by the time we finish our broadcast tonight, maybe we'll get a couple from Iraq.
I know.
Yeah, we'll accept it. If you want to go with Lipa for his next trip to Iraq or Iran, you can call us right now. We're going to be right back.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Talkline radio and TV with Zev Brenner is just phenomenal. Everybody concerned about the Jewish community should listen and watch. He has the best guests. He asks the most interesting questions. He's always so well prepared. It's talk radio and television from a Jewish point of view at its very best.
To advertise on the Talkline network and Talkline's email and social media blasts reaching over 70,000 people, please call 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100. Or email info@talklinenetwork.com.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
Here is your host.
From here we learn. In other words, I would imagine that you learn from here that if you do learn Gemara with the Nigan, you would bring a tremendous Tanig Rachni to Kodesh Baruch Hu into yourself. When I learn Gemara with the song, it brings me freedom. I feel it enhances my learning experience.
And that's Lipa in Iraq. Lipa Schmeltzer, superstar, is our guest. He just got back from Iraq a number of weeks ago. Very interesting undertaking. He went with Shlomo Zions, a 27-year-old Hasidic Jewish writer, podcaster, and YouTuber who travels around the world. Let's go to Stan in Forest Hills. You have a question or comment to our guest. Go ahead, Stan.
Yes, gentlemen, I'm getting a feedback, Zev, a little feedback.
I'm sure you're going to give them a lot of feedback, I'm sure. Go ahead.
No, I'm talking about the phone first.
Go ahead.
Get that. Gentlemen, I understand you have dual citizenship. Is that correct?
No, I don't. I have only American citizenship. But
Well, then the question. Okay, then. Okay.
I'm a Canadian as well. I have a dual.
Okay, then the question I have to ask the two of you is, what the hell were you doing in Iraq? I mean, your music. What were you doing there, and why did you go, knowing that at any time you could have been taken prisoner? Now, obviously, you are very lucky, but if I was the embassy, I never would have got you guys out because you had no business being there. What were you doing there other than this video? Why did you take your life in risk and go to Iraq?
So, the truth of the matter is that you're saying it very clearly in the face as it is, and the truth is that I don't have a proper answer.
You don't have a proper answer?
No. I will tell you the reasoning why I went, but I don't think it justifies it completely. I went because the original Talmud Bavli was written in Iraq, and I figured because there was no Jewish people for so long, and it may be a good thing that to go there to back to the roots where the Talmud was written, especially now when I want to work on a project of rewriting many stories of the Talmud in Yiddish. I wanted to experience it, but I'm not sure.
You wanted to experience it.
What
if you experienced if they kidnapped you or tortured you? I mean, that could happen. They don't want you there. You're lucky you got out with your lives. I mean, yeah. I don't understand your thinking at all. I mean, I understand you're musicians. You want to go somewhere? Go to Mount Sinai and go up to the hill where 10 Commandments are. Maybe you'll get some kind of an idea there. But why Iraq? It doesn't make sense.
You're right, and
right.
You're right. And I did a lot of precautions, and when I planned the trip, I had no idea how really dangerous it is. Only a night before the trip, when I read the website, I realized that you're talking about the embassy, not to say the embassy is closed altogether. They bomb the embassy every day now. So there was really, if something would have happened to me, I mean, that would be, catastrophic. But of course, I also took, at least in my hopes, I thought I'm taking the right measures. I took a security and a tour guide and dressed up like a full-fledged Arab. But it's still not maybe justified.
Okay, Stanley, go ahead, Stanley. You have we have other people waiting, so just tell us any quick final thoughts.
Are you guys going back again?
No.
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. Shlomi says he will, but I will tell you that Shlomi needs to make life assurance, and behind the scenes I'm working on it with him because I told him he has kinderlich, and he has to make life assurance. But I don't know if the life assurance will pay if he goes to Iraq. But I want to just tell you one thing, that a week later, after this whole thing happened, no, not a week, on Sukkot actually, I saw that officials from Iraq are reaching out to Israel to make to sit at the table for talks. I said maybe some energy, if I believe in energy, that the universe is all one and we create each other and we create good things, that God wants us to bring people together. Maybe that all happened because two Jews were there now. All of a sudden you see Iraq, they reach out to Israel. Now it's not like Dubai because they have a lot of tribes. One tribe can want to reach out with Israel, the other tribe may want to slash you, but
I thought you had something to do with that.
Who knows? Maybe I did without even knowing.
All right, thank you for your phone. By the way, Lipa, did you ask any Rabbanim, any Gedolim, any Rebbes about going?
Yeah, we asked one. Let Shlomo take this over.
Yeah, so, I've been traveling to countries like this for a couple of years now, and I always discuss it with Das Torah. For myself, personally, this is literally my livelihood. I'm a journalist. I travel to places that people wouldn't usually travel to. And I've always gotten the green lights from Rabbanim. They do tell me to take certain precautions, etc. But, we did ask Ashayla. We were told to proceed with it. And I can understand why people think that it might not be a good idea. But I'm sure Lipa will understand when I say this, that there are certain things that just feel right. And it's a thing, it's a passion thing, it's an instinct thing. You can't really explain it, but it felt like something we needed to do, and we did it.
Okay, let's go. I think, is this David in Brooklyn? Go ahead, David in Brooklyn. Or is it Eliyahu? Okay. David in Brooklyn, are you there?
Oh, hi. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Your question for Lipa.
Oh, hey, Lipa, how are you? I just to mention a couple of things. I had the schus to marry an Israeli woman, and her parents are from Baghdad. Okay? Both her parents are from Baghdad. And I found out recently that her father survived the pogrom in Baghdad. I didn't know they had pogroms over there. I'm Ashkenaz, but what?
I believe it might have been during World War II. Was there a pogrom? I'm trying to remember. There was definitely.
I believe so, yes.
There was definitely one.
The Yerushalayim went to Baghdad, and he was the ally of Yamach Shemuel Hitler, and he inspired a pogrom in Baghdad. And I found out my father-in-law survived the pogrom in Baghdad. And then the other thing I wanted to say to you, just like there was a big aliyah from Yemen to Israel, there was a big aliyah from Iraq to Israel. There was a big aliyah from Iraq to Israel also.
There was, of course. They all went up. I think that now there's only like 2 Jews left, and they didn't want to meet us. They were afraid. But, of course, there was a big, and it's interesting, Pesach I was by a program where I spoke about it, and somebody came over to me that she grew up in Iran. Okay, she's not even an older woman. She probably, I didn't ask, but I would say 30s, you know? And another one told me he grew up in Syria. So we have a lot of people in New York and Israel between us that look like regular businessmen, but they all come from these countries. And of course, if you ask, so there's 2 sides of the spectrum. Some people will say that because of the founding of Israel, the Medinas Israel, that enhanced the terror against Jews, and before that they lived in peace. And other people will tell you that there were pogroms even before that. So that debate I'll leave for the politicians.
Anyway, thank you for your phone call, David. I appreciate your call.
Okay, sure. Good luck.
Okay, I believe we have Tzvi in Brooklyn. Go ahead, Tzvi in Brooklyn. Your question for Lipa.
Hello?
Yes, Tzvi, go ahead. Good luck.
Good luck. Is Lipa there?
Yes, go ahead. Your quick question, because we're watching the clock.
Lipa, I heard about your trip to Iraq to connect with the Bavli and everything. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sure you saw it advertised. I'm sure you saw it around. This amazing sefer. It's called Introduction to the Talmud, and they came out with it in Lashon Kodesh. It's called Mavel Talmud, and it explains all the Ma'ara and Tanaim and all their stories, their greatness. You get to see a little glimpse of who they were, and in Mamish it changes the perspective on Talmud Bavli. When you learn Gemara, it's a total different experience. You realize who these people were, and it's not just you're reading the words, you're reading the people. You get to Mamish understand a little glimpse of who they were. It gives you their history and everything. I thought that, on your whole project, this is what you're working on. It's worth it for you to take a look at the sefer.
I will. Thank you so much. I will order it online after the show, and I'll start learning it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're going to really enjoy it.
Thank you for your phone call. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Lipa Schmeltzer, superstar in Baghdad, and made a music video in Iraq. And he was accompanied by Shlomi Zions, a 27-year-old Hasidic Jewish writer, podcaster, and YouTuber.
Hi, this is David Gabay, and you're listening to The Zev Brenner Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now your host.
That's Lipa in Iraq. I guess they haven't heard Yiddish there in a long time, right, Lipa?
You keep on starting from the song from the introduction. You got to go in the middle where the beat starts kicking in.
We'll get to it. Okay, but we have some email questions for you as well, and We have to have you back because this is a fascinating topic. People really enjoy it. AI writes, Shavua Tov, Zev, great show as usual. The obvious question is that Israel has not stamped passports in over 10 years like very many countries around the world. So what are they talking about? Israel gives you a small copy of your entry permit with your photo instead of stamping your passport. So once again...
Yes, so maybe I didn't express myself right. I couldn't go to Israel the next day. I had a show B'Lev Echad with a stamp from Iraq. My visa, in the passport there's my visa. It's a full-page visa for me being in Baghdad. And if I come into Israel the next day saying, and they open up a passport with a huge page from Iraq, they may also stop me and question me. You know, it happened to Shlomi in the past.
Yeah, I have an Israeli visa in my passport, therefore I need to get another passport. So I have one passport that I don't show the Arabs, one passport that I don't show the Israelis.
Okay, so that answers your question. Here's another question. So, Lipa, any new albums in the making? That's what Ari writes.
We're just talking about this now for the whole show.
I guess beyond the Iraq album, I guess that's what he's looking at.
Yeah, so I'm working on an album called Bav Lipa. It's going to be a full-fledged album with a lot of money invested in it and a lot of great, hopefully, art and talent and creativity. And it's an endeavor. I look at life... I mean, everybody looks at it hopefully this way. It's a very short lease we have. And I want to try to make a difference, not only making another CD with a great song of a horror or a disco or a wedding song or a chuppah song. I want it to be something fulfilling that leaves something for this world for the years to come. And this YouTube place will outlive all of us, you know. So this is one of the many ideas. I have like 20 ideas lined up. This is one of the ideas that hopefully will be a little game changer for people who don't like to sit and learn all day, or they're not yet there. I have a Rabbi Center from Israel tells me that the good answer to answer people is, without arguing, and that's the truth, is that I'm not yet there. It's okay, not everybody's yet there to learn all day. But if you listen to a good Lipa album, which has content of the lives of Hamaruam and Tanuam with beautiful stories that no one ever yet made songs of. The reason I'm saying no one ever made songs of is, like, for example, there are songs about Hillel Zokan being on the roof. There are songs about Rabbi Akiva getting married to Ruchel, leaving the whole business behind and going to learn. But there's a lot of stories that are untold, and a lot of stories that deserves to be a song and a beautiful song. And even this video that you keep on playing here is about, from the Gemara, that learning with the song enhances the learning. You know, it could have a deeper pshat. It could be it talks about Pashto Minach Zarka. It could be it talks about we have to learn Torah with the song. And I have my own pshat on why we have to, in the olden days, learn Torah with the song, because the written word was not written yet. So in order for you not to make a new pshat, a new idea, you had to really go with the song. The song was the writing of the Torah. But that's a whole. Let me not get into too deep here. For me, it's if you bring stories from the Gemara to life with songs, it's a beautiful gift for the world. And that's what I want to do. Music doesn't make any money today from CDs. You can't, I call it a project. Because the CDs it's gone. But the soul of it is not gone. And people today, when I was younger and I needed an MBD CD that came out 15 years ago, I had to take off the dust from all the Pesach kitchen things. Maybe I hid it over there. Today, and that's already a plus, I'm giving to the other side of the coin, people can have full libraries of MBD songs and free songs in Spotify and iTunes. They have a full collection of Lipa Schmeltzer songs. So this is called in Hebrew Nitchias. It's a Nitchias thing. You make a song today, it lives on forever. And that's why the project has to be good. And that should answer also for Stanley. He is right that I took my life to a place where I shouldn't. You know, it's a dangerous thing. But it's something that's Nitchias. I went to Iraq to be in a place where 800 years we had yeshivas. And if I went into a whole rant here with Torah, let me say that we're just coming out of sukkahs. Sukkahs is the din is ara. It means a house that tomorrow is not a house. It's like a small nothing. It's like camping. But the whole life is like camping. Because we had yeshivas in Iraq for 800 years, Rabbi Isai.
Are you starting another yeshiva in Iraq? Yeah.
Now there's not even a stone.
I know, I'm saying, you want to start a yeshiva there? Or?
No. But what do you see from this? That the wisdom of a person lives on. The change that you make in your friend's life. if you can save your friend from something, if you can make a change in your friend's heart, then he will have better children, the children will have better children, and you're changing thousands of lives.
We have about 30 seconds left.
Help for Zev Brenner's show also.
I loved it. I love having you on. We have to have you back more often. People really interested. Your career here is going through. It's getting stronger and stronger, right? Things are moving very well. Baruch Hashem.
Tomorrow I have 2 gigs. One in Montebello, New York, and one in Borough Park for Shmira and Kanai Nahar. I'm doing a lot of good things, and that's why you asked me I should come more often on the show. You can call it Lipa 2.0 or my new Gilgul, whatever you want to call it. My life is about my career and my music and singing and my family, which means that for 15 hours a day I don't talk. My phone is not closed for 7-8 hours a day. My phone is closed. And if something like in the end of the summer I was busy more with status stuff, now I calm down with it. I have to focus on my music, focus on my rochnis, focus on my personal growth, and I can't be busy on the phone all day. And I wish I can come to Zev Brenner show every week, but my voice will not be able to handle it.
We have to have you more often. We haven't had you on in a year or so, so it's okay. You Baruch Hashem. I enjoy what you're doing. You're very creative. People should watch and get your music. Thank you, Lipa. Thank you, Shlomi Zantz, for being with
me. I want
to
ask one question from you, Zev.
Yes.
Do you see my point that I say that for 800 years there's a yeshiva in Iraq, and now there's nothing there? We live in America for 75 years. We think we have everything, and hopefully it should continue.
We Jews have moved. We keep moving from place to place.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that people...
But also where the Tower of Babel was also...
Yeah, it's crazy that we're not talking about 20 years, 800 years.
We're out of time. Well, thank you, Lipa. Thank you, Shlomi.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Talkline radio and TV with Zev Brenner is just phenomenal. Everybody concerned about the Jewish community should listen and watch. He has the best guests. He asks the most interesting questions. He's always so well prepared. It's talk radio and television from a Jewish point of view at its very best.
To advertise on the Talkline network and Talkline's email and social media blasts reaching over 70,000 people, please call 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100. Or email info@talklinenetwork.com.
Thanks for listening.
For continuous Jewish programs, talklinenetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the talklinenetwork.com.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
One day I was talking to Lipa, and he says, Shlomi, can you take me to Baghdad?
I wasn't sure what's Kurdistan, what's Iraq, what's Baghdad. I didn't know the differences. But I wanted to go to see the essence of Talmud Bavli, where it all started.
Obviously, I said, of course, it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And eventually, the right time came, and we went.
In the midst of all this exciting, dangerous trip, we get this idea of...
we decided to go through the entire Shas. Obviously, we couldn't go through the entire Shas because it would take years, but Rav Mata Frank gave us this idea that we can go through every Masechta, a little bit of every Masechta, sort of like a Tikkun Leil Shavuos, and that way we can go through the entire Shas.
And then Shlomi shows me in Masechtas Megillah, these beautiful words, how beautiful it is to learn with the song and to learn with the nigga.
And he took one look at it and he was like, this has to be a song.
Reb Yochanan teaches us in the Gemara, Hakoire Beloi ne'ima Vishoyne beloi zimero Ulov akusi voimeir V'gam ani nusati lohem From here we learn.
In other words, I would imagine that you learn from here that if you do learn Gemara with the Nigan, you would bring a tremendous Tanig Rachni to Kodesh Baruch Hu into yourself. When I learn Gemara with the song, it brings me freedom. I feel it enhances my learning experience.
in Himmel, auf Kirche, sich verwaschen auf hinne. Tittra gerät, ach, du gehst davor. Ob es eine Schiebe, du ein kleiner Winkel. Ich war so viele Juren, ich bin in der Gemüse. Und ich hab Tame getroffen an einem Bescheid. A größer Ohr. Wo nilmad Gemara במנגינה בוא נתעמק יחדיו בסוגיה בוא נלמד גמרא במנגינה בוא נתעמק יחדיו בסוגיה לא מלרנן מתעניגן Zet uns brengen, vergenigen Lass mich lernen mit Annigen Zet uns brengen, vergenigen Teure Gemure Teure Gemure Lass mich lernen, Gemurre mit Anigen, Gemurre. Jeder Rebbe hat ein Bier, jeder Berge hat ein Nies hingehet. In 3 Jahren, jedes Mal ist auch der Wetter, ja, wir fahren euch und hätte der Amoire abverhält, der sucht, der Talmud hat ein neuer Pschatz. Lass mich lernen mit Annigen Zet die brengen, vergenigen Lass mich lernen mit Annigen Zet die brengen, vergenigen nog een andere dingen. Het gaat ongezamen het project van Bav Lipa. Hoe zei het Bav Lipa? Van heel eind van de gemoeden. En we lopen op in Irak. Dan gaan we de laden. Allemaal leeg. Maar dat is van heilige gemoeden. De heilige. Itzerana. La.